Just gotta focus on yourself out here, y'all. Pay too much to the competition. Don't worry about what other people doing. Gotta trust your process. Worry about yourself, like I'm saying, man. Bigger than me, bigger than you. You know what I mean? If you know what you gotta do, then do it. You always making excuses, we ain't got time for no excuses. You gotta get it, man, you know what I'm saying? Don't let nobody hold you back. Don't about that negativity, suggestions, fuck all that shit, my nigga. Yeah.
No competition, I'm feeling so fabulous. And you niggas mad as shit, but it do not matter, kid. So what's the comparison? You niggas ain't zagging yet. Tell your homies stop gassing you before we pull up and embarrass you. No competition, I'm feeling so fabulous. And you niggas mad as shit, but it do not matter, kid. So what's the comparison? You niggas ain't zagging yet. Tell your homies stop gassing you before we pull up and embarrass you. Yeah. Still watching for clones, but they all over the globe. Probably why I say whoa. Young nigga never made money from stoves, but went hard with the zones. Me and Henny broke it down way before. Now we killing shows, just act like you know. Whoa. Got a new bitch from the bottom. Still never change out my niggas from potters. Honest, I've been feeling golly. You get in my way, then you leave me no option. Niggas thinking it's a race, till we put them in their place. Leave their family with a ghost, then we pull off in a race. Competition, I'm feeling so fabulous. And you niggas mad as shit, but it do not matter, kid. So what's the comparison? You niggas ain't zagging yet. Tell your homies stop gassing you before we pull up and embarrass you. No competition, I'm feeling so fabulous. And you niggas mad as shit, but it do not matter, kid. So what's the comparison? You niggas ain't zagging yet. Tell your homies stop gassing you before we pull up and embarrass you.
It's no competition. You niggas be lying about how you be feeling, saying you Jordan, you not even Pippin. Or Rodman when he was with Pistons. You blondie, you lying about all of your visions. Your paper be short like some midgets. I used to step out and just worry about digits, and now I just focus my visions. I had to distance myself from some people cause they just be holding you back. I wasted some time I never get back. Like why I do that? You niggas be bitching, it's just to be seen and put on the map. I only know some niggas who know how to spin up a check and get it right back.
No competition, I'm feeling so fabulous. And you niggas mad as shit, but it do not matter, kid. So what's the comparison? You niggas ain't zagging yet. Tell the homies stop gassing you before we pull up and embarrass you. No competition, I'm feeling so fabulous. And you niggas mad as shit, but it do not matter, kid. So what's the comparison? You niggas ain't zagging yet. Tell the homies stop gassing you before we pull up and embarrass you. No competition.
Gamer boy, gamer boy, gamer boy, gamer boy.
Zach. Just gotta focus on yourself out here, y'all. Pay too much to the competition. Don't worry about what other people doing. Gotta trust your process. Worry about yourself, like I'm saying, man. Bigger than me, bigger than you. You know what I mean? If you know what you gotta do, then do it. You always making excuses, we ain't got time for no excuses. You gotta get it, man, you know what I'm saying? Don't let nobody hold you back. Don't about that negativity, suggestions, fuck all that shit, my nigga. Yeah.
No competition, I'm feeling so fabulous. And you niggas mad as shit, but it do not matter, kid. So what's the comparison? You niggas ain't zagging yet. Tell your homies stop gassing you before we pull up and embarrass you. No competition.
I think I'm cute. I know I'm sexy. I've got the look that drives the girls wild. I got the moves that really move of them. I sent chills up and down their spines. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy. Are y'all ready to go? Let's do this. I make them hot. I make them shiver. Their knees get weak whenever I'm around. They see me walk. They hear me talk. I make them feel like the rod ain't real. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. That might your heart out, girls. Hands off the merchandise. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. Welcome everybody to another edition of the Blackout. I am your host with the most, all the way from the East Coast. And as always, folks, I am in airplane mode, and folks, I am joined by a man who, quite frankly, people need to start recognizing the danger of. There's been a lot of people coming at me, talking a lot of nonsense, calling me a lot of names, and I have called in my big, bad, black friend Uncle Bobby with the fist of fury and the arms of rage in the cage at every stage. Give it up for Gin and Truth. Yes. Yes.
Goddamn right.
You got
goddamn right.
Mess around and get beat down.
Overwhelming sense of impending doom.
Love it, man.
That's what I like.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. A little sweaty, a little frustrated, but I am here. Let's rock this shit.
Let's rock this shit out. All right. Before we do, let's go ahead and just have a little drink here, man.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
It's too terrifying.
I think we got one of these short ones pulled up. Let me go with this one. This one nice and short. Cheers, everybody.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got.
Uncle Bobby, where's your drink?
Taking a break from all your worries.
There we go.
Here we go.
Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name. And they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can't see. Troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name. You wanna go where you can know people are all the same. You wanna go where
Let us go ahead and get into this shit. Today, we are talking about how Christians exaggerate the Bible's historical reliability. This is a Prophet Azad clip, so I actually think we're going to enjoy the clip. But he's talking about Vodi Bakum. I got a sneaking suspicion we're not going to enjoy Vodi Bakum. But Uncle Bobby, tell us what you know about this man, Vodi Bakum. And just your experience with this stuff.
What I know about Bakum is, like me, he's a former Southwest Conference guy, and he went to what is called the Harvard of the South, Rice University. Not 100% known for its athletics, but is 5,000% known for its academics. You don't get into Rice because you're an academic slouch. You want to major in underwater basket weaving. So he's obviously a very intelligent dude. The problem with that is, we were talking in the pregame, he's like John Lennox in that when you got master's degrees, PhDs, just because you're good at A does not mean you are automatically good at B. So a man with his intelligence, as soon as he gets up and says, some dude split the sea with a stick, how do you debate that, right? It's coming from Vodi Bakum. Clearly, he knows what he's talking about. So he's a dangerously stupid man and highly intolerant of anything that is not 100% his brand of Christianity. I think he's an ass.
What do you think of the intellectual state of a person like that? Because I have a hard time believing that if a Muslim or someone like that told him a story of one of their figures, you know, splitting the moon, splitting the river in two with this, it just seems like there's a blatant double standard. And I don't know. Do you think Vodi Bakum thinks the miracle claims of other faiths are reasonable, or just because it says so within the pages of the King James Version? And
that's the messed up part. Is only my brand of crazy is acceptable.
Right.
Now, I've literally talked to Christians who, when you sit here and you tell them that in Hinduism, they actually believe that angels are blue, that their skin is blue. And I've had Christians laugh at that. How absurd is that? And it was like, no more absurd than a virgin getting pregnant or a donkey saying, please stop hitting me, that hurts. So no, I don't believe for 2 seconds that he actually accepts the claims of other faith systems to be the least bit credible.
Yeah.
It's only his brand of ridiculousness that's allowed.
Yeah. Got it. All right, let's roll some tape.
All right, let's roll the tape.
Oh, quickly, what do you think of, are you familiar, let me see if I've got that going. She should be able to hear it, right?
I can hear it, but I cannot see.
Oh, I don't think I shared.
clip.
I might not have shared the screen. That would probably help. Is that better?
No, there we go. Now I can see it.
Let me do the good old optimize for video real fast. So quickly, what do you think of Prophet Azad here? This is one of my guys. I really like his stuff, and I don't know. Are you familiar with this guy?
I am familiar. I have not seen 100% of his stuff. But I have seen some videos.
He's
from Zod.
He's got like a dry sense of humor thing going. I really enjoy it.
I love him already.
Greetings. So I just started a series called Vodi Proves the Bible Again, where I examine a sermon in which Vodi Bakum gives people reasons they should believe the Bible. Or not reasons they should believe, but that he believes? Or those aren't the reasons because you should believe the Bible on its own authority without taking any other reasons into account? It was all very confusing because Vodi kept contradicting himself about what his point was supposed to be. That's all covered in my last video, The Good, the Bad, and the Worse, but while it wouldn't hurt to watch that at some point, it's not vital to keep up with what we're addressing today. When it all comes down to it, what he wants you to believe about the Bible is this.
It's a reliable collection of historical documents. Can you say that with me?
Yeah, sure.
It's a reliable collection of historical documents.
And I tried to say it with him, but messed up, which was just too darn bad. It's a reliable collection of your fucking
pause the
fraud.
tape real
So
fast.
to make sure nobody else does.
See that there it is right there. Again, the Bible is a reliable historical. No, it's not. I mean, just no, it is not. And it doesn't matter if there was one person in that room or 1,000 people. I want you to say it with me. The Bible is real. It's like, no, it is not. It is garbage. It is a fairy tale. It is a book of lies. Some dude in the sky did not sit there and talk a universe into existence in 6 days. It is not historical. That's why it's called a faith systems. You got to take this crap. Just take it.
I just recognized something though when he said this.
Okay. When it all comes down to it, what he wants you to believe about the Bible is this.
It's a reliable collection of historical documents.
I guarantee you in that sermon, this would have been what I call a counter sermon. You take out your clicker counter, right?
Yeah.
Just like in that old Nick Lachey Axe commercial, he would walk through a restaurant and every time a beautiful woman looked at him, he clicked it off, right? Those are clickers. I used to use those. I guarantee you he said that it's a reliable collection of historical information or whatever. I guarantee you he said that at least 10 times, 20 times that sermon. What am I getting at? Believe it or not, the sad part is this works. Because Christians don't go away from church and go home and look up, is the Bible a reliable collection of historical events? Right now, they will just parrot what he said. And it's just a good example because I've been trying to make this point that they're all apologists. And I realized this by talking to my family. We have this image that like there are these apologists online. Maybe there are like these evangelists in the, sort of ministry world, but that the average Christian that you go to work with or school with or in your family and friend group, they're not an apologist. Right? They're an innocent Christian who just sits in this pew on Sunday morning, sings the songs, comes home and loves you.
Right.
Actually have a conversation with their faith actually have a conversation with them about their faith. What will happen? Instantly, they will turn into an apologist. Sure. I've had this happen to me. I was like, I don't want to debate. I don't really want to debate you. And so you bring up a point, and next thing you know, they're spewing the fuckface Frank Turk talking point. So what I'm saying is, gang, when I say they're all apologists, I'm trying to get you to the half truth here, right? I'm not saying they all formally identify as apologists, but what I'm saying is, if their pastor is not an apologist, their pastor is getting apologetic talking points. Then these apologetic talking points are being spewed from the pulpit where they are chewed without question. In a way that's almost worse than coming from an apologist. Because if an apologist gets online in like a YouTube video, people don't have a relationship with that apologist, or they don't have a lot of authority maybe in their own life, or maybe they hear of it in like a debate or something. I mean, those can all be problematic in their own right, but it's really problematic coming from the pastor who they know and love and donate all this money to, who maybe married them and baptized their kids and all of this type of shit. And then he's just up there, the Bible is a reliable collection of historical and they're not going to challenge that. They're just going to keep saying that over and over and over and over and over again. And then we're the asshole for being like, no.
No, it's not.
It's actually a collection of myths primarily, but with, but yeah, all right, let's roll tape. Appreciate you.
Roll the tape.
You say that with me? It's a reliable collection of historical documents.
And I tried to say it with him, but messed up, which was just too darn bad. It's a reliable collection of your fucking fraud. So to make sure nobody else does what I did, he keeps rehearsing it.
Say it again. It's a reliable collection of historical documents.
Rehearse it.
It's a reliable collection of historical documents.
I guess 4 times should do it.
Oh, man, gang, that was such a great example, right? He literally was like, rehearse it.
Absolutely.
Rehearse it. Let's get this practice in here. Y'all got to know how to do this.
Here we go. It's a reliable collection of historical documents. Nailed it. I mean, I don't believe it, but I successfully got the words out. So good job getting people to repeat things through repetition. Now let's hear why this is supposed to be true.
This is important. It's important that it's reliable. It's important that it's a collection. It's important that it's historical. All of these things are important.
Ooh, but you forgot to say that it's important that it's documents. Because if it's not documents, the whole thing's for nothing, right? Come on, Vody, get your head in the game.
That we have a collection of historical documents. Now, the Bible is unlike many other holy books in that the Bible is actually a collection. You don't have just one individual who says that he heard from God and everybody has to listen to him. It is actually a collection.
I'm not sure why this is important or what it establishes.
Okay, he hasn't said shit. All he's done, like you said, it's a collection. He's just going to drive that point home. This is almost hypnosis. This is a game. This is a trick, right? Again, it's almost up there with like Pink Elephant. Now stop thinking about pink elephants. You can't. Right, it's a collection of stories.
Uncle
It's
Bobby,
a collection.
you just
It's
told on yourself. Uncle Bobby's always telling on himself. See, when he really starts, he's acting like he's this big, bad, ass-kicking football player. But when he starts talking about the scripture and all the times he's read the Bible, you go, Uncle Bobby, you're a Bible nerd. Sorry. And then he's all like, oh, yeah, let me slip in this about pink elephant. Uncle Bobby, that's neurolinguistic programming. Uncle Bobby be trying to slip like Uncle Bobby does not have these advanced intellectual degrees, just like his black belt. Yeah, it's
neurological. What's that?
Neuro-linguistic programming. It's the idea that when you use language, that you're engaging in an act of basically programming a person's mind. And the example is usually a pink elephant. And the example they say is, in order for me to say, don't think about pink elephants, you have to think about pink elephants just to conceptualize what I'm telling you not to do. And so even something like a pink elephant, which is not a thing, and even though I'm ostensibly telling you not to do it, right? I'm basically seed planting and informing your intellectual mapping. And it's just it's a whole thing, and that's the example. But I think he knows this, and he's read this before. But no, it's an important point because it really does talk about the rhetorical environment that people live in, right? And it's important to pay attention to all of the buzzwords that are happening because similar to like cancel culture, say it enough times and it becomes a thing. And then even when people who don't buy into it or whatever, they'll then see something and go, oh, well, isn't that a little bit like, and so we've just got to pay attention to how words really do influence not only how we understand things, but like our perceptions before we can even, and that's I think that's usually why that particular example is given, is because it's a really powerful example of it doesn't matter if something exists or not, you can still make it part of someone's mapping, and it doesn't matter if you're ostensibly using careful rhetoric, your words can still be very powerfully suggestive, even if you're even if what you're saying, like semantically, like the language you're using, sort of skates around the problem. It's almost like the mob boss, right? Who says something to you like, it would be a real shame if something happened to this wonderful new business around here. If there's just, I would hate to say, I don't think you've got perfectly, it looks like you've got great fire protection around here, but there have been a lot of fires lately, and I see the locks on the door, but you're not worried about break-ins, are you?
That's a perfect example, actually. Perfect.
Yeah, right. Perfect. All right, let's roll this tape.
Let's roll the tape.
What? Oh, I got it. I know. I got to do boom.
I mean, I get the surface level appeal of what he's trying to insinuate, because one person writing down that God told him something might just be a random crazy guy, but a bunch of people writing it down is a whole other story, right? Well, not really. I mean, why should we be blown away to discover that a bunch of people who are part of the same religious tradition and often the same community all collaborated on a common narrative? Especially when most of them likely knew their contemporaries and had access to, indeed were steeped in, the writings of those who had gone before. Add to this the fact that the Bible as we have it was assembled by church authorities, and we're looking not at independently corroborating documents, but an anthology that, as far as it agrees with itself internally, does so by design following an agenda-driven selection process. The fact
It is the equivalent of when I forget what it is around here. Jet's Pizza or whatever tells you that it is America's favorite Chicago-style deep dish, Detroit-style pizza, or whatever, right? People don't forget the Bible's a propaganda manual. It's an advertisement.
100%.
It's a PR campaign.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a sales
Hold on,
manual.
you guys got Jet's Pizza too?
Yes, we do. We do.
Oh
We
man,
do.
I got one not 2 miles that way, and I am still the Bible. The jury is still out. I can't decide whether I like it or not.
No, you've gotta grade it on a curve, right? It's chain relative. It's like it's not relative to your local, craft pizzeria. It's compared to Domino's or Pizzeria or Pizza Hut or that mid-level chain type situation.
I've had some good pizzas from Jets, coupled with some that were sitting on some bullshit.
Yeah.
But it does not matter whether it's. I was like, I actually liked it. It was like, man, I wish I could get my money back. What stops me from ordering it? Butthole health. Every single time I finish a Jets pizza, there's not enough Pepto, not enough Imodium. There's not a cork big enough to stop what comes out of me. So
for me, it's regional.
I like it, but
I'm from the East Coast, and that's, New York style pizza, and this is a thing. And then you move out to the Midwest or somewhere, and so my palate is all fucked up, and I can't judge pizza anymore because, I don't have a proper East Coast comparison point.
I get it.
The fact that the Bible has various authors is as much a giant nothing burger as the fact that Greek mythology has various authors. And that's even ignoring the question of whether it actually has as many authors as are ascribed to it by church tradition. Now, Vody goes on to say things that suggest my analogy isn't that great. For while Greek literature was written in, Greece, he makes it sound anyway like the Bible's authors were recording things all over space and time.
The Bible was written on 3 different continents: Asia, Africa, and Europe. The Bible was written in 3 different languages, mainly Hebrew and Greek, with a little bit of Aramaic. The Bible was written by over 40 authors from multiple walks of life.
Now, this is all pretty much just worthless garbage. First, the part about the 3 continents is just puffing up the Bible's history using misleading phrasing. Even if it were written on 3 continents, a claim that's questionable in any sense, this has nothing to do with the span of where it was written and is only semantically true because Israel happens to sit right at the edge of Asia between Europe and Africa. So most of it was written in Israel, check off Asia. The church expanded a few hundred miles to Greece and Rome and wrote letters there, check off Europe. And almost certainly apocryphal tradition has Moses writing the Pentateuch in Egypt. Maybe check off Africa. There's speculation that others might have composed part of the Bible while visiting Africa, but so what if they did? The whole thing is as pointless as saying Alaska reaches further north, west, and east than any other state in the U.S. just because it crosses the international date line. It's fun wordplay allowed for by quirks of how we label geographic features, but that's it. Same idea with languages. Sure, the Bible was written in 3 of them, but that's just because Aramaic, Hebrew, and Greek were used in the area, just like French, German, and Flemish were all used where my grandma lived. All this reveals about biblical writings is mundane information about how languages convert.
That's my problem with this type of crap. I mean, I get it. You have to work this hard to prove your point, then your point blows. I mean, it's just, it doesn't matter whether it was written on all the continents. It doesn't matter how many languages it was translated for. None of that matters. All these claims are just false. They're sitting on bullshit. And it's just, and you're right. At the end of the day, they all become apologists. It's just, you have to spin, you have to sweat, you have to work hard to prove something that they claim is so obvious. Again, I don't care how many authors there were. I don't care how many people you can get to say that 2 + 2 = 17. You're still wrong. I don't care how many continents it was written on. I don't care how many languages. You are still demonstrably wrong.
Right.
All the claims in the Bible, it's all just mythology. Right? People, I've had people laugh at. I still remember, holy shit, there was a pastor that I used to talk to here, and I asked him about Thor, and he laughed me off. And I was like, no, we grew up with it because he's my same age. You know, Dr. Donald Blake, they throw his monkey ass out of a window. He hit the stick on the wall. Next thing you know, he's the mighty Thor. It's like, this was based on he was the god of thunder. And he said, he laughed it off. And it's like, he can't be. That's not a real god because they made a movie out of him. It's like, dude, do you know how many movies have been made about Jesus? Do you have any idea how stupid that just sounded? But again, all this stuff is crap.
Yeah.
I mean, they start with the foundation that it's all real. I'm starting on the foundation that it's not. There's nothing that can be said about their religion that can't be said about everyone else's. And the apologists for Thor and Vishnu, they all have the same spin. Yeah, except here in the States, Vishnu's not busy yanking, trans people's rights away from them, but the Christian God is. But again, this is all just crap. I don't care how many continents or how many languages or how many authors. 100%. Snakes don't talk.
Period. End of story. Right. It's pretty ridiculous, and it bothers me that these people don't realize that they never have an honest tactic. They never have an approach to go about these. They're always talking about the narrative. They're always talking about the arguments, and they never talk about the evidence and seem to not realize that that's because there isn't any. And my takeaway lately in all this is we need to start realizing ourselves and then figuring out how to respond to what I consider to be, as far as I can tell, a brute fact that there is no honest way to argue for something that isn't true.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's just
Verge and the region they came from. As for the diversity of its authors, I doubt they were 40 authors from multiple walks of life, as this claim is based on traditions about authorship that are as much religious narrative as the stories themselves. However, if they were, big deal. 40 people from within the same religious traditions added their part to a body of writing they were already familiar with. It's like if you wrote an episode of Star Trek. It wouldn't be some miracle if you and all the other authors were consistent in shaping a common narrative. It would just mean you did your job and made sure you were familiar with the thing you were writing about. And the walks of life of you and the other authors would have nothing to do with it. Fody carries on about these claims for a while, then sums up as follows.
Now let me recap.
Okay.
3 continents, 3 languages, more than 40 authors, hundreds of subjects and topics, written over a period of 1,500 years. This is a reliable collection of historical documents.
Is that the 7th time he has said it?
It is not just one individual making
I actually have a clicker. I can start bringing a clicker for these type of things.
Oftentimes we don't think about the Bible in this way.
Wait, stop. So pause it.
But also, quickly, Uncle Bobby, hang on real quick. That is, I just wanted to add that is also a part of neurolinguistic programming, right? The repetition. When you really want to, you say it over and over and over again. And so, you know what? I haven't thought about this, but it would be fascinating to pull something on an LP, they call it, and then sort of relate it to preaching. But yeah, go for it.
Well, no, so this is his knockdown, drag out. This is his slam dunk. This is his mic drop. It's reliable because the 3 continents, because of the languages, because of the this is his argument. This is what he's standing on. Because again, I'm not sold. I'm not convinced. Because on top of the fact that every religion can make these claims, still, so fucking what? Again, it's like Darth Mullet, whatever that sucker's name was with that thread that I was on. I don't want you to philosophically defend the position that a virgin can get pregnant. I want you to fucking prove it. Because if you don't prove it, I'm going to tell you I don't believe you. And I'm going to tell you that you're sitting on some bullshit. I do not care that you got 1,500 years. I do not care that it touched 3 continents. I do not care that there were dozens of, I don't care. The earth wasn't made in 6 days. Stop talking. Shut up. Right. So again, this is his knockdown. That it's reliable because of 1,500 years, because of 3 continents and languages. Okay, then just color me unconvinced.
And it brings me back to something YouTube Punk said when we were reviewing his education. YouTube Punk said if he's that smart, he's a grifter. And I made the comment that for me, inquiring about the education of the intelligence or education of a believer is almost a trick question. And I don't mean that to be personally insulting to them, but I mean that seriously. It's a question I need to know the answer, but there's never a good answer, right? Because it's sort of like a person reveals that they're severely unequipped, right? And then you're kind of like, oh, okay, I get it. Like this, they don't understand science, they don't understand epistemology, they haven't really thought about this or that, or maybe there's an emotional one, like whatever. Oh, okay, they're just not there yet. Like, that's fine. No shade, right? Or it's like, I've got the da-da-da-da-da, and I ran a business, and I'm da-da-da-da-da, and I'm just like, all right, well, you're a grifter. It's like, you just don't care enough to care enough, I guess. So like whatever it is, right? But but yeah, I just wanted to mention that because I know I say quippy shit, and sometimes people starting to be like, Jay thinks all Christians are more. I'm just saying it's hard. You got to understand where I'm coming from with this too. And I'll try to say this very briefly, but there's science that I participate in, right? But I'm also an educator, right? I teach, right? So I do research and I teach, right? But I also do education research, which means I do research about teaching and learning, right? The science of education, if you will. And the thing about it is it's reliable just like the science you're used to. Just like the science that makes cell phones and computers work pretty much and you don't have to worry about it, because the physics and the chemistry that goes into the material science and all that's pretty fucking reliable. So is the educational process. We know that if we teach people decent epistemology, how to understand the scientific method, and then introduce them to, say, the evidence for evolution, they're gonna accept evolution. Works every goddamn time. It's freaking reliable because we've learned a lot about how people learn and how they deal with evidence and all this type of shit. We've figured this out, and so we have a process that pretty much moves in one direction very well all the time. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And it's the same. And it's the same way. It's the same way with a lot of this. If you really looked into it, and the things you'd have to look into to evaluate it, which would include some understanding of epistemology, or how to think about thinking, or how to evaluate claims, right? And then took a even rudimentary exploration of the evidence from there, you'd come out on the same side every time. And where I'm going with that is even a Christian would come to know something like, yeah, I may like this story about how I get to go to heaven because this Jesus guy came, but I do recognize I can't walk around expecting people to believe a virgin got pregnant without sufficient evidence that that's even possible, right? And then sufficient evidence that that's actually what happened. And I can't expect people to, believe that Jesus died for my sins, to address the fall of man when clearly there's evidence to warrant belief that we evolved and we're animals, like all that. Like if they at least got that far, right? They'd at least be playing in the same arena as everybody else. But we know enough about knowing enough to know that they don't know enough, right?
But that's what I've always said, that this takes no commitment. And every other, when they always say that we're stealing from their worldview, it's like, no, you're actually stealing from ours. And by worldview, I mean fucking reality. In every other aspect of their lives, they rely upon reality being real. Talking about like cell phones. They don't pray to call their family across, the United States. They pick up a cell phone. When a bone is sticking out of the skin, they don't pray, they go to a doctor. They only put this crap when there's absolutely no commitment, when there's no skin in the game. To tell you, an evolutionary biologist, that you're wrong about You don't know what you're talking about. God, blah, 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 blah. Hey, your son's running 105-degree temperature. I'm calling 911.
Exactly.
In every other aspect
Yes.
of their life, it is they follow the rules that reality has set for all of us.
Right.
Right. So again, this is just,
Which, by the way, that's the definition of secularism, right? Is just right there. Just let's just do what works for
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, without
Exactly.
regard to
We
anybody's
play-
particular beliefs.
Right. And you're right. It is lazy.
Christianity is lazy.
And they only make they
Absolutely
make this
lazy.
argument. I'll even say this about fuckface Chris. I believe him to be human enough to where if something was going down that was bad, I believe in his humanity enough that he would maybe try to stop it. What he wouldn't do is sit there and be like, well, is it objectively wrong?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, your humanity would
100%.
kick in because you would want someone to help you.
Right.
This is only good when it's time to debate nothing.
But I need that phrase because I think maybe to those of us, because I have a hard time holding on to the good faith of believers because it's hard for me to understand how people can believe in good faith. This is the best way I could put it. But that holding on to their humanity or their humanity would kick in, I think that's what we're after. Dude,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get your humanity to kick in a little bit. Take a step back. I know you believe and you believe hard, but let's just you know what I mean? Like let's get back to what would happen, like you said. I think that's a very good point. What would happen if my house was on fire, Chris? Well, I'd come pull you out if I could. All right, cool. Would you ever stop to think about whether or not that was the objectively right or wrong thing? No. I think I just noticed you needed help and I'd pull you out the fire. All right, well, you know what I mean? Like, let's work from there. It's crazy.
That's how committed to there. Because even in that police interrogation, I'm not going to say debate. I remember because he kept trying to go down the road of rape, and y'all know me well enough to know I don't debate that topic. And I said, can't we just agree that rape is wrong? And just hold hands and just ride off into the sunset.
Right.
And he legitimately said, no, I can't agree with that at all. So again, I would like to believe that when push came to shove, even someone as odious as Chris
right.
would do the right thing. If for no other reason, he wouldn't want to be raped. He doesn't want his wife to be raped. Therefore, if he saw that crime happening, he would at minimum call 911 instead of sitting there. We're like, well, is it objective or subjective? Because it's not objective, then it's subjective.
Right.
He would jump into action.
Right.
And so again, what Vodie's talking about, what Chris was, fuckface Frank Turk, these are all debate points, which is fine over there. But again, in reality, all that matters is the bottom line. So again, this is all just bullshit. It's just word salad.
Yeah.
It's a garbage.
And I want to hit
just
you.
Absolute garbage.
I want to hit you in the audience with an example of how I'm starting to see the bleed over from apologetics into social issues. So we've been dealing, like I said, with a lot of issues in the community. I don't want to bring them all up. There's been a lot of drama, but it started with the raccoon avatar, right? And part of what was problematic was nobody really cares about your avatar, but the person with the avatar put up the image of a black dude afterwards. Like it was like, oh, I have the raccoon avatar, then they would switch and it'd be this black guy. This black guy name was Veckel. Make a long story short, I ended up jumping in the stream because the dude who was doing it and the Veckel dude himself were on the panel together. I was like, all right, cool. Let me now ask Veckel about this, because when we brought it up, the person was like, oh, Veckel is cool with it. He said it's all right. He doesn't mind that I use his image like this. And I wanted to bring out with this guy, because Veckel's a black guy, right? So I wanted to bring it out with him. Oh, you can listen, yeah. That like, do you understand why this might be problematic? Are you understanding what's going on here? And of course he did. But what was really funny about all that was in the midst of that whole conversation, he basically said to me that the issue I was having, because Veckel's a Christian, was that I was trying to bring attention to the fact that this particular issue was racially problematic, but I should not expect people to feel any need to respond to it appropriately or take issue with it because they're atheists and they have no objective basis for their morality. Right? So it might be one thing when we sit around here and we talk about, all these different things and how, people say, oh, well, is this really wrong or is that really wrong? Because, atheists don't have an objective basis for morality or whatever. Hang on, I think Uncle Bobby's coming back. Bobby, can you hear me?
I can hear you. All right.
I don't know if you can hear that story, but I was saying when so I sit down this dude and I'm trying to talk to him about, like, do you recognize the problem of somebody like black man to black man? Do you recognize the problem of somebody using a raccoon avatar and then in sequence alternating it with your face? And he's like, yeah, I know this person. I don't have a problem with them. I told him I don't have a problem with them using my avatar to, poke at me, but I certainly recognize the problem of them using it in sequence with the raccoon because that's gonna, be suggestive to people or whatever. And I'm like, all right, fine. But where he tried to hit me, and again, I'm not trying to revisit the drama. I'm trying to tie it back to this point about the objective basis for morality thing, is he said to me, because he's a Christian, right? Like Vody Blockham, he's a black Christian. And he basically said to me that I just needed to let it go or whatever because I couldn't expect the atheist that I was dealing with to address this because they don't have an objective basis for morality.
Oh,
He said this to me on air in this community to my face about racism. You know what I'm saying? So the point I'm trying to make is that is an example of it's time to pull somebody out of the fucking fire, and you're going to sit around and go, well, I don't know if these people should really pull you out of the fire or not because they don't have any objective basis for morality. And there was just so much going on. There's been so much going on in the last couple of weeks, and I really have zero interest in revisiting it. But that never even got brought up because there's just been so much happening. But since it came up today, I just think it's a really important point that, you got to recognize when somebody's doing apologetics about bigotry. Yeah. Y'all want to do apologetics, fine. But when you get to the point where somebody's trying to address racism in our community and you're sitting there talking about, well, you can't expect atheists to do anything about racism because they have no objective basis for morality. I'm like, yeah, all this shit's gone way too far. Right? Like that, it's just like, nope.
That is what you say when you are either 1A, a psychopath, or 2, you have no relationship with the topic of actual racism and actual bigotry. This is why I don't have the discussion about rape with Christians or Christian apologists.
Right.
Dee said it best. By whose objective standard? The survivors. Period. End of story. Everything else, go fuck yourself. Right? And you sit here and say that an atheist has no objective. Stop. Again, my grandfather was murdered by the Klan because he had the audacity to give lynched black people a proper burial. My dad was 10 years old as he's helping his dad cut lynched black people down from trees. I am not going to soil the efforts of my grandfather and my father by sitting here and diluting the seriousness of, well, I'm an atheist, so do I really have an objective?
Wait, Uncle Bobby, can you tell me something? You said your father. What happened to your father? Tell that story briefly again.
So my grandfather East Texas is where my dad is from.
Sure.
they would lynch black people, of course, because that's what
Sunday
you do
morning
in the early
tradition,
1990s.
between
what's the
church
big
and the
deal,
football
right?
game, right?
Yeah. And so my grandfather, who I never met, but he had this streak about him. All that mattered to Big Bert was what was right. That's, I guess, where my dad gets the whole, what's the bottom line?
That's that painful stick
right,
you and I seem
do
to
it.
have up our asses.
Yeah. And it's just like, it is right. It is right that these black people that were hung by the neck until they were dead, it is right for them to have a proper burial. Now, if you don't know the message behind lynching, everybody, here it is. It's like crucifixion. You're supposed to stay up there as a message. The hanging was for that person whose life was snatched away from them. They stayed there as a message to everyone else. My grandfather said, fuck that. We're going to cut these people down and we're going to give them a proper burial. He took my dad, who was the only living boy at this time because his oldest son, Elijah, had passed away. So my dad was the one remaining boy. My dad was truly a boy when he went out to help his father, my grandfather, lynch black people down from trees. Now, the Klan found out who was doing it, so they murdered my grandfather. They didn't give him a painless shot in the arm and he fell asleep. They beat that man in the back of the head until he was no longer breathing. Now, do you think I'm going to waste my fucking time talking to some asshole? And I don't care what color you are. I'm not going to sit here and take my grandfather's efforts and shit on him by talking about, well, I'm an atheist, so I don't know if what, Big Bert did was objectively right. I don't know. Is hanging a black person objectively wrong or subjectively wrong? If there is no God, what's wrong? I'm not going to insult not just my grandfather. I'm not going to insult all the people that have been lynched by talking about something that just doesn't fucking matter. So again, that you're just going to sit here, Christians, and talk about objectively wrong versus subjectively wrong. You can have those discussions, but you're going to have them way the fuck over there. I'm not listening.
Yeah,
I'm not listening.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing. And
of course,
I also just think there's been a lot of gaslighting. I've been told a lot. You're a little bit older than me, but by a little bit, I actually mean a little bit, right? And you're discussing how not even a generation before you, right? So a generation ago, because you're still here contemporarily, right?
Yeah.
Someone could grow up, right, as a child, still seeing lynchings on a regular basis. Yeah. Now, people have the audacity to tell us you're not affected by it. I'm sure you've heard this. I've heard this a lot. People actually see people say this shit to me on the internet all the time.
Oh yeah.
That's when they're not telling me that I'm definitely not affected by racism because I have a PhD, which makes me in part of the elite 1%. And I'm like,
I've heard that.
Martin Luther King.
What do you have to complain about, Uncle Bobby? You signed an NFL contract.
Fuck you, ball player. No, you don't. No. I'm so. I ain't trying to hear shit about my PhD. This motherfucker signed an NFL contract. Yeah. You definitely. You are. Yeah, you need to, with that privilege you got over there, Mr. NFL, man. By the way, gang, I just want people to know when we start these shows, man, the content is really just to be a catalyst for the conversation between me and Uncle Bobby. So I give a fuck about a video, but I'm glad we're having this conversation. I want to touch on something else about this because it's kind of relevant. It's been coming up a lot, and I want people to think about this because we had a great conversation last night about this in Gather. In light of a lot of the things that the conversation that we've been having recently, like it's changed my perspective, right? Because what happened is there's an issue with racism in this sort of atheism on YouTube space. Let's just put that out there, right? And even in the spaces that are on our side, rather progressive, there's there's real limits to our allies. And it's all good. I'm not even saying that with no shade, right? It's just, this is new to a lot of people. And a lot of us are realizing, a lot of our friends really are new to the game, especially when it comes to being active participants and, trying to speak up for us and do what's right. And that's all good. But it's put a new light on things for me. And one of the topics I want to touch on with you is it's changed how I view debates around biblical slavery.
No.
Because the tone deafness on racism that I feel now, like I always thought it was a bit insensitive for people to keep having these conversations over and over and over and over and over again about biblical slavery, because there's so much gaslighting involved. You're doing the thing where you invite people on so they can tell you slave didn't really mean slave and this was the good slavery and it wasn't really like that and people loved it and maybe it was the best thing for them and all this stuff, and you're not realizing that for most of these conversations are happening either in America, in Europe or wherever, even though they're on the internet, right? But they're people. Like, there's no such thing as the internet. Where's the internet, y'all? It's not. It's in my house, and it's in Uncle Bobby's house, and it's in your house. So the conversation's happening where you are, and it's like we're in America or anywhere in the West where there's a very recent history of slavery. That it's kind of insensitive to have these type of conversations about slavery where you're not going to demand a certain level of mature expression and understanding of what slavery is, what it's about, how deplorable it is, and all of this stuff, and you're letting people do this song and dance in front of people. Now that I've had the whole experience of the last couple of weeks and seeing just a broader tone deafness and people really not quite being, as I would hope, ready to have the conversation, it's been really problematic. And a couple points I just want to touch on with you real quickly. One is people just really need to be careful talking about slavery. Period. End of story. It's really fucked up. The other thing is, if we're going to have an honest conversation about biblical slavery, to me, it's totally unacceptable for somebody to sit up here and act like, well, the Bible wasn't about chattel slavery or slavery as we think of it, because it was different in that cultural context, when that's not what they said to slaves of the, Pan-African slave trade that ended up leading to, African Americans like me and you who are the descendants of American slaves.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They enslaved those people, often utilizing biblical justification. 100%. And then when they mistreated them, they use biblical justification for that too. And then when they, resisted our resistance, in other words, why fight the slave rebellion or why fight against the civil rights movement? Why push back against the slaves' need to free themselves at any cost? And let me say something to people who talk about emotion in these conversations and people who talk about people being violent behind their emotions. My man Wayne, another black man in our community, Wayne, love you so much, bro. Wayne says this all the time. Never let it be forgotten that this is coming from the people who say, give me liberty or give me death. These are the give me liberty or give me death people who want to tell us, the rest of us, that we're being too emotional about the issues of our freedom and safety. So they can go fuck themselves. But that's that's a real issue here, because the Bible was apparently pro-slavery and slaves obey your masters and there shall be many lashings. Do y'all know how many? Many is some type of shit, right? Like it was that shit's biblical. And now people want to sit up here in America, in Europe, in the West, in public, knowing black people and the descendants of slaves are likely watching, and then sit up here and go, well, now let's debate, is biblical slavery really? And I'm just sitting here like, y'all really need to reflect on doing this.
That 100% speaks to their addiction to being right. Again, there's one thing to say about the topic of rape. It's wrong, period. Let's move on to something else. There's one thing to say about slavery, and that is slavery blows, period. Let's move on to something else. There's only one thing to say about racism. Racism blows. Let's move on to something else. Now, for all the suckers that are sitting here, making debate points about slavery, fuck you. And Buddy is sneezing. Just 3 sneezes.
In concurrence, he's agreeing.
Okay, here we go. Yeah. But it's like, so when it comes, and I've had, and we've all had to deal with the apologists or just your everyday Christian making excuses about context and so on and so forth and the blase and the flavonoids. And my argument still remains the same. Let's say your context argument is valid, that we didn't truly understand what the Christian God meant when he meant slavery, talk about slavery. Then your God blows at communication. How fucking hard is it just to simply say, you see that person over there? Yeah, don't treat them like property. Okay, God, bam. But instead, the fuckface sat there and put things in the Bible that sounded exactly like slavery. It's like Leviticus 18:22 and 23. He sat there and he's like, if a man lies with a man as he does a woman, what they both has done is detestable. They shall be put to death. Their blood is on their own hands. That sounds a whole hell of a lot like don't have sex with another dude. But apparently, in context, what it means is don't rape boys.
Right, exactly.
Okay, your Christian God sucks ass when it comes to communication. Yes. How hard is it? Because neither in the New Testament nor the Old Testament is there a 100% prohibition on slavery. You cannot find that in the Bible.
Right.
Christians,
Ever.
go fuck yourself. Go look it up. You will never find anything in the first part or the second part that 100% says don't own slaves.
Y'all wrote a sequel and never thought to fix that part.
Yeah. And go fuck yourself in the whole, well, Jesus said the commandment is, shut the fuck up. Where does it say don't own a slave? You can't find it. There's again, everything else is simply everything else. This is a debate topic. And if you can sit here and actually have a debate on slavery, fuck you. You are as insensitive as the person who has a debate on whether rape is objectively wrong or not. I was listening to some Jeff Durbin because I hate myself. And his thing is, why shouldn't we eat people? Okay, if I have to convince you not to eat somebody, fuck you.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Do you want to be murdered and cannibalized? No, then don't do it to someone else. Well, is it objectively? I don't care. I don't care. Anything after that, and you are literally just being argumentative.
Absolutely.
If we have to sit here, I say it about rape. If it takes you longer than 5 seconds to talk about rape, you are either a rapist, a Christian apologist, or you are both.
Yes.
Same thing about slavery. Why is this a debate topic? Why does it take anyone longer than half a second to talk about slavery? And you're right. I'm Gen X. We are Gen X, which means we are the first group of Black-born Americans with full civil rights. I had rights that my cousins didn't have, my first cousins. Why is this a debate? How can you sit here and say it doesn't directly affect you?
Right.
You're Terrence K. Williams. You're the Hodge twins.
Right.
You're formerly
Right.
Diamond and Silk. I'm not having this debate.
Also,
with
Uncle Bobby, I tell people I was the only black kid in all white schools. What they hear is,
yeah.
"Oh, you don't deal with racism. You went to nice schools." I go,
Oh,
"Excuse me.
yeah.
No,
Oh.
the story I'm trying to say is I dealt with racism every single day, and it was a constant threat to my actual physical safety."
Oh yeah.
It's just amazing.
I've got a lady at work who is older than I am, and she's from South Coastal area, Texas. And she has told me about the one black girl. Buddy, will you stop sneezing? Jesus H. Christ. You're stealing the show, dude. The one black girl in her high school that was bused to her high school. And her thing was, we all loved her. Yeah, so clearly there can be no racism. I was like, first and foremost, no. Not all of you loved her.
Exactly.
That's
exactly what I was thinking.
She was bust there. And finally, yeah, she was the only black girl in the entirety of this big ass high school.
Right.
You don't see anything
wrong with that. Exactly.
Yeah. So again, it's like, these are not debate topics.
They're not.
They're not. It is just you simply trying to win a debate. You're being argumentative. And again, over there, you can do it, but not with me. Not anymore. I no longer have the patience.
Right.
To sit here and have these stupid ass conversations.
There's one more point I wanted to make about that, because you hit my number one point, which is, God blows if his commandment was it's an abomination for man to lie with man, instead of it's an abomination to rape people who are underage. If he couldn't keep that straight, then he's got nothing to do with me. But I have another point to make, because there's another apologetics that goes on here about translation. And I want to also hit it with a bit of a disclaimer. I'm not taking shots at academics here. If there's a scholar who wants to make an argument, like let's say that going back to the original earliest Hebrew manuscript, there was a word used in that passage, or any passage, just about anything, that actually did mean or suggest not to have sex with little boys, right? As opposed to, right? There was alternates, right? there was a list of words, right? So there's a lot of different, right? This happens in everyday language. Like there's a lot of different words you could use. I could say it's really bright and beautiful day. I could also say it's very sunny. I could say the sky is radiant. Right? And so here's what I'm getting at, y'all. I'm not coming at any scholar who says, yes, there are, there's the potential that the original language meant something else, right? But when I talk about, is the Bible bigoted? Is the Bible racist? Does the Bible endorse slavery? Is the Bible anti-homosexual? I am talking about the Bible people are reading and using today. I always say the Bible I'm talking about is the one you buy when you go to Barnes & Noble and say, I'd like to purchase a Bible. And they go, oh, here's, right, take your pick of translations, right? Now, where am I going with this? For those of you that don't understand how a book is made, the authors actually are not the final authority on what goes in a book, right? A lot of times it's the publisher, it's the editor, right? So whatever the Bible authors said, the Bible authors could have actually wrote original language that said, homosexuals are amazing. We love them. They should definitely get married and have full rights. Slavery is wrong as shit and it's awful. Thou shalt not own another person, right? But if the people that sat around editing it, or the church fathers who sat around determining what was in and what was out, right? If they then altered it and changed it to something ambiguous or to something homophobic, racist, not condemning slavery or whatever, then that's the Bible we got.
Right.
And if racist edited it so it sounded more racist, or homophobes edited it so that we went with the homophobic translations, then it's fucking homophobic.
But that's the problem right there. Again, if this is the inerrant word of God, then it cannot be changed. You mean to tell me that your God is so powerful that he meant to say don't rape little boys, but we translated it as don't butt fuck another dude? Your God is fucking useless.
Right.
You're right. It is like if God meant to say, because I've heard people make this argument, God actually loves homosexuals as they are, but humans were strong enough to distort that word to where it literally says kill gay people. Your God fucking blows, Jack. I'm more powerful than that.
Right.
I am.
Yeah, because if I was the editor, or if I picked which words goes in there, right, it'd have been like, yeah, this shit's not coming out on Jay Bundy press, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. Like when I train someone, especially someone who's been through something really horrific, for lack of a better term, I don't want to say make, but I strongly suggest that she change her wording about herself. Well, I'm a victim. You're a survivor. You are a survivor. This isn't self-defense.
Right.
This is
you're like,
offense.
again, you're like, if we're going to construct your narrative, let's construct your narrative, right?
Exactly.
Like,
and it's like, well, I'm afraid of hurting him. No, you are defending yourself. You don't go make groceries and just eye gouge the shit out of someone. But you're not attacking this person. Because, gang, you would be surprised how many people I have to kind of talk off the proverbial ledge. It's like, well, I don't want to hurt somebody. You're not hurting someone. You are defending yourself. You are not a victim. You are a survivor.
And everybody think about that. I need everybody to think. Everybody here should be thinking about that. That Robert Reed is here to teach you how to punch people in the throat to take care of yourself, not to make you a weapon. Or at least a weapon of self-defense, not an attack.
Especially when you talk about, the women in our society, and I tell them, we've done you no favors.
None.
This sugar and spice and everything nice, sit with your legs closed. When we want a woman's opinion, a man will give it to you. All that crap. We've done you no favors. So it's like you have to unwire the bullshit, right? And it's saying same thing with all this crap. Again, like I said, I would say your God is no better than me, but fuck that. I'm better than that fuckface.
Absolutely.
I'm over here telling women, knuckle up. Let's do this thing. Your God apparently said, I love homosexuality. You know what this is like? There's a meme, and it's Jesus looking like this, and I meant figs instead of God hates fags. If God meant to say, I love all gay people, but it's translated into literally throw rocks at them until they're dead, and your God didn't say, hey, hold on there, fuck faces. That's not what I had to say. And it went to press.
Right, exactly.
Your God is fucking useless.
Yes, right.
And that's who you guys are afraid of pissing off.
And all of these God-inspired authors, editors, reviewers, church fathers, publishers, right? I love this. And here's something, think about this, y'all. Every denomination just about, and pretty much every church, if you go to any pastor or church minister and ask them, what is your preferred translation? They all have one. They've got a whole fucking lecture, if not a fucking essay as to why it is that one. And then a lot of times it's denominational, like this denomination uses this translation and this denomination uses that. So again, they've all gone through all of this shit and been like, yep, this is our official version. this is the version of the Bible we like. Everybody else goes, compares those, goes, this is my preferred version, and this is the one, and this is the one that's the authoritative word of God. And then I go, oh no, yeah, it didn't mean each other. And I'm like, no, I'm just not even.
Everyone else has got it right. Well, we've got it right, whilst everyone else has got it dead fucking wrong.
Right.
The people who sit here and jerk off to the King James will sit here and tell you that the people who kick the NIV, that they're sitting on some bullshit. And again, that's why I'm saying at the end of the day, when it comes down time to nut cutting, we all play reality's game by reality's rules.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, period. I mean, these people are just garbage.
All right, let's see if we got some more tape.
Let's go.
We've read about this
voting.
That we have, we don't comprehend that all of this came together in order to give us the Bible, okay? And this actually adds to the credibility of the Bible, the fact that it is a reliable collection of historical documents.
So we can see that Voddie's strategy for establishing the Bible as a collection of historical documents is to rattle off a series of statements that mean pretty much nothing yet mimic indicators of historical reliability. Sure, when a lot of people independently write about the same event, that gives historians more, not total, confidence that it happened. But when a lot of people who are often aware of each other's writings contribute to the same religious narrative, and those writings are kept or discarded by people invested in maintaining that narrative, that's not. When reports of the same event come from diverse people across cultures spanning long distances, that might increase historians' confidence even more. But the fact that authors from the same religion lived in a culture that spoke 3 languages does not. The fact that they might have crossed nearby boundaries of continents before writing part of the narrative does not. The fact that they came from different walks of life within the same culture or aware of the same religious claims does not. And to my knowledge, the span of time across which a religious text was compiled and the number of subjects it wrote on has absolutely nothing to do with reliability in any way, so I can only guess Voddie is peppering his speech with anything that suggests varied things happening across a lot of time and space so he can sound impressive to his audience while keeping their head spinning so fast they can't focus on the vapidity of any one specific claim.
Exactly.
There's not much to argue here because this is just obvious nonsense based on wordplay. Next, he tries to establish that the Bible is...
Also, gang, if you would like a reliable collection of historical events that meets all of those factors and far beyond, I suggest you read what's called a history textbook.
Even more reliable because it was written by eyewitnesses. First is this one.
Listen to this from Luke's gospel. Luke was a physician and a historian, and Dr. Luke writes, chapter 1, verse 1 of his gospel, "Inasmuch as many have undertaken to compile a narrative of the things that have been accomplished among us, just as those who from the beginning were eyewitnesses and ministers of the word have delivered them to us, it seemed good to me also, having followed all these things closely for some time past, to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus, that you may have blind faith in that you may have certainty concerning the things that you have been taught." Here's what's interesting. Luke was not an eyewitness. He doesn't claim to be an eyewitness. He's a historian who claims to have traced the information from the eyewitnesses.
But all we have here is the author saying he drew from eyewitnesses. It doesn't prove anything at all.
I mean, come on, man. I have a soft spot for all this because I was a Christian. I believed all this crap.
Hang on, gang. Everybody say it with us. I can't believe I used to be a Christian.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe I used to be a Christian. Holy shit. I was probably just as much of a Christian at Texas playing football as Voddie was at Rice when he was playing football. He's going the long, and because that's the only thing to do is to go the long way to try to quote unquote prove this bull. I don't give a shit about Luke. I don't give a shit about Peter. I don't, none of them. I don't care. I don't care. Again, you want me to, okay, fine. I'm sitting here looking right at it. It is somewhat of an extraordinary claim to sit here and tell you that someone played and was actually pretty good at the sport of football.
Yes.
To make it to college, and with me, a very brief time, I don't as a professional.
Boom. Oh man.
Now, that's me in August of 1991. I used to play college football. It's kind of an extraordinary claim. I just busted out some evidence. I don't have to sit here and talk about how people over 3 continents, over 500 years, blah, 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 blah. And if that's not good enough for you, please go fuck yourself. I tell people all the time, let's see. There's my mom. It's just really that simple. That ugly fucker sitting right next to her looks a little bit like me, probably because it is me. And I actually had someone, because I posted that on Twitter, and someone pulled the whole, well, I have to have faith that it's your mom. I was like, actually, no, you don't. What you can do is get your monkey ass off this goddamn timeline. Because if you sit here and you think you're going to use my mom as a debate topic, you can sit and spin. I don't care that Luke was a physician or blah, 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 blah. I don't care.
Right.
You want me to believe that a dead Jew came back to life? Prove it. I don't want you to philosophically defend a position. I don't want you to tell me that pizza got sleepy and took a nap. If you want me to believe this, then fucking prove it. This is, however, let's say the whole thing for Vody was 25 minutes long. Fucker, I can prove to you I played football in less than 25 seconds. I can prove to you that my mom, in less than 5 seconds.
Right.
Christians, you've had thousands of years to prove your claim, and all you've got is Vody repeating a dozen times. It's a collection of reliable historical, it's a collection of reliable and historic. It's a collection. Actually, no, it's not.
Right.
I don't care how big of a stick it is. I don't care how strong your arms are. You can't split a sea in half. I mean, we're sitting here listening to a man talk bullshit. Period. End of story.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
After a lot of irrelevant talk about why there were multiple gospels, Vody says this.
Luke is saying here in no uncertain terms, this is an historical document.
Which again is just him making another claim, this time that he's writing a historical document. A claim he'd be all too motivated to make if he's claiming supernatural things happen to support a religious narrative he wants people to believe in. Let's move on.
Notice what Peter says. We did not follow cleverly devised myths when we made known to you the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. In other words, these weren't myths. These weren't a collection of myths. These were facts. But notice.
All right, gang. I just gotta kick a little bit tea here from How to Write a Sales Manual. What Christians don't realize is that the Bible's a document that, for lack of a better expression, evolved. And part of what it does is it addresses common objections, right? If you teach somebody, let's say you're, teaching somebody how to date or how to, try to approach people they're interested in, you might teach them different openers, right? Different, so an opinion opener. Hey, Uncle Bobby, I'm trying to figure out which one of these colognes to buy. I've got this one on this arm and this one on the other arm. Would you mind taking a whiff and telling me which one you like better? Believe it or not, you can walk up to just about any woman in the mall and do that. And most of the time, if you approach them politely, they will do the common courtesy of telling you which one they prefer. Because they think, right, you might be shopping for a gift for someone, or you might be, they're just trying to help you, right? But because you've chosen that particular tact, you might get any number of responses, and they're going to try to get you to have a way to anticipate what responses you might get, right? If you go with the story opener, oh my God, I got to tell you about I just saw that NBC thing. I got to tell you this one time, my friend was on NBC because they got arrested. Right? There's all these different approaches, and the point is, sometimes they reliably produce a a set of objections. Like frequently asked questions is another thing you could think about, right? You go to a website and there's the frequently asked questions, right? And the company's response. Why? Because why take 3,000 phone calls when most of them boil down to a set number of questions and issues, and here's our response to commonly asked questions. People never recognize that this is what's happening in the Bible. That and all it and it's like I heard Dr. Josh Bowen talking about this with the historical claims of the Bible actually as the actual topic, but that Christians shouldn't do this because it's usually disconfirming. Like at best, them people claiming that their stuff is not myths, if that's their claim and they're sticking to it, it doesn't actually demonstrate to us that they aren't myths, right? But it does at least demonstrate us that they were being accused of it just being myths, right? So it's just like, I don't even know why you guys want to keep going there and having these conversations. But I just wish they recognized how obvious it is that this is something they were being accused of. It was a frequently asked question, so to speak. It was a common objection. And they're giving them the sales manual of saying, we were not inspired by cleverly devised myth. In other words, they're saying, dumbass Christian, when someone accuses you of using myths, you tell them, but the Bible says they're not myths. And it's like, it's just kind of baffling that we're not able to effectively point this out to people. I'm as I'm saying this, I'm disappointed in myself that I can't do that. I don't know.
I mean, who said it? Basically, you can't talk people out of belief because they weren't talked into it.
Yeah, you can't reason somebody out of belief they weren't reasoned into. Yeah. Again,
to sit here and just, again, ask your average everyday Christian, are angels actually blue, and watch them laugh at it. But Hindus actually believe it, because when Hindu X over there was 2 years old, they started that slow drip that angels have blue skin. Now, Hindu X is 50 years old, and they're still believing that angels have blue skin. So it's like, well, how do we get them out of it? And it's like, well, we can't. Because people were taught that hell is a moral concept. And no matter how much logic you try to put into that conversation, it's like, you understand that you are condemning over 1 billion Hindus to eternal torment. You understand that, right? And their only response is, well, if you just look at the trees, it's obvious. You look at the stars, you look at the universe, and it's like they say the same thing about you. And so again, there's no way to introduce logic to an illogical conversation. We can't pull them out of this bullshit because there's no way you can tell me they arrived at this through logic and reasoning. Because there is none. There's none to have in this conversation.
Right.
None.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I gotta just be honest, gang. What's traumatizing me right now is Vodi Bakum. Honestly, sounds like a more sophisticated and slightly more sophisticated version of my grandfather. And you know, it's the reason my relationship with my family is so broken, and it's like, and I can't deal with it. Like the weight of him and my grandmother on my mother. It's just like, this is my family. This is our struggle, man. It's crazy.
Notice his next phrase. But we were eyewitnesses of His Majesty.
Again,
my grandfather
another
could
claim.
be preaching this shit this
This
morning.
time one Vodi already covered and we already refuted. Peter says we were eyewitnesses after saying, trust us, these aren't myths, which isn't sus at all. Sus. My kids would just love these fresh cultural references.
Here's the second part. We have a reliable collection of historical documents written by eyewitnesses. Can you add that with me? Let's say it together. a reliable collection of historical documents written by eyewitnesses.
A reliable
This is just
collection of
brainwash.
you're still a fucking fraud.
Really is.
Jeez, fumbled again.
One more time. A
Oh, my
reliable
goodness.
collection of historical
Oh, come on,
documents
dude. You're not
written
even
by
trying to hide it.
eyewitnesses.
Okay, here we go. Deep breath. A carefully selected anthology of documents from within the same religious tradition, written by people who predictably swear up and down they totally saw stuff. There we go.
He says we were eyewitnesses.
Yes, he says. Pretty important weak link in this chain of reasoning, isn't it?
Go with me, if you will, over to 1 John. And watch what happens in 1 John, chapter 1, beginning at verse 1. Watch what he says here. Notice his choice of words. That which was from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked upon and have touched with our hands concerning the word of life. Think he's trying to make a point there?
Yes, I'm
I
keeping
don't
up with
even
a
care.
point. He claims to have seen stuff because he wants people to believe his supernatural religious claims.
I don't know. Maybe verse 2 will help.
Yeah, and maybe not.
No,
The life
it
was
won't.
made manifest, and we have seen it and testified to it and proclaimed to you the eternal life which was with the Father and was
Pause
made
it,
manifest to us.
Jesus H. Christ. Okay. One, I got to go get some of these contractors wrangled up. But before
Yeah,
I
you're
go,
good. You're good. You're good.
the bullshit behind
And the
this,
thing-
and again, this is 100%. I can't believe I used to be one of them.
Yes.
Again, dude, pulling from the Bible to prove the Bible to be true, to sit there and again, we have to be close to 20 times where he said the same thing and made them repeat it more than once. Say it with me. The Bible's a reliable collection of
Right.
historical.
Right.
This is brainwashing. Gang.
Absolutely.
You'd be more or less susceptible to suggestion if fucking you were on the Nebuchadnezzar and they stuck that fucking thing in the back of your head and I've got kung fu. This is brainwashing. And what's hard about it, I think I told y'all, where I live, it is a major hub for one of the biggest religious cults in the world, not the United States, in the world. And the stuff they used to get the adults to do to the kids is unspeakably fucking terrible. And the only way you can get someone to do some bullshit like that is that slow drip. It's to isolate. Please notice how this is not an actual discussion. You've got a room full of people listening to Vody saying the same shit. They're not going to invite me, but neither not going to invite you.
Hell no.
They sit there like, hey, dude, you're going to quote John? Who gives a shit? Does this it doesn't align with reality? Then this is it. No, you're just going to sit here. Again, the only way you can get adults to do the fucked up shit that the children of God cult did, it's that constant slow drip. It's the isolation. It's don't listen to anyone else. Just listen to the sound of my voice. Now say it with me. That's right. It's okay to do this. It's okay to. Next thing you know, that's what. Oh, fuck. There was another cult here. I can't remember the name, but I remember I watched a documentary because a lot of my coworkers were a part of it. And it was this yoga cult. And one of the hardest parts was they actually showed it. And I won't tell if there was a sex act between dudes, and the dude is narrating his own sexual violation. He's straight. He's straight, but he's made to do certain things. And he's crying. But the only way you can get him to do that is that slow drip. This is right. This is the right. Why are you looking at him? Look at me. This is right. This is the right thing to do. That's what Vody's doing, gang. Say it with me. Say it with me. The Bible is a reliable source. Say it again. Say it again. The Bible is a reliable collection. What? You only said it twice. Say it with me again. Now, let me go to the book that's making the claim to prove that the claim is true. No, don't listen to those people. Listen to me. It gets hard after a while to sit here and listen to this crap.
It does.
Because this is just brainwashing.
Yes, very
And
explicit.
when Vody turns around and tells people, now it's time to hate gay people. Now it's time to hate trans people. They do it. Because if I can get you to bite on this little bullshit, I can get you to bite on the big bullshit. So again, I had to throw that in there before I rolled out. But that was just getting hard to listen to. Because again, we're probably at 20 plus times where he said, say it with me, the Bible's a reliable source of, and it's just not. But he's isolated these people, and he's just going to sit here and say the same shit over and over and over again. So, yeah, that was some bullshit, man.
Seriously,
That was some bullshit.
Stupid Horror Energy. Thanks for the donation, $10. Really appreciate it. Uncle Bobby. Stupid Horror Energy is a huge fan. Just a fucking awesome person. Thank you. Really appreciate it, man. This has been a great show, but
absolutely
some trash people, man. These guys are wild, and it's amazing that because I hadn't seen this, but that at the end of the day, it's like how Christians, at least in this case of Vody Bakum, and again, I think there's so many like this. Exaggerate the historical reliability. I thought there would be more even sort of take some kernels of significant history and use that to push. But this was more like straight name it and claim it and just repeat it type stuff. Like it was a much lower bar than even what I was expecting. It's like,
and everyone in there nodded their head and agreed with this dude.
Yeah, it was just like
there was no kickback at all.
Well, there never really is, and that's another thing that I don't think, at least I'm trying to come to grips with, where I know there's a lot of people who say things like, oh yeah, I participate in this church or this community, but they don't necessarily agree with X, Y, or Z, but there's never any real opportunity for them to do anything or push back in any meaningful way. And if there was, 99.99999% of them wouldn't take it. So I don't know what it's supposed to mean to me when, a lot of them say, oh, I recognize the problems with this or that. I'm like, if at the day is ... but I just want to be a Christian anyway, see you later. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's just trash piled upon some more trash.
Hey, The Real Nordic Black, what's up, man? Good to see you. Go ahead and check out The Real Nordic Black's channel, man. It's a good dude. Had me on his channel. We did a fun interview, man. Good to see you, man. It's he's a cool dude. Check out his channel. All right, man. I'm gonna let you get out of here, Uncle Bobby. For everybody else, we will be back at 3:30 for a hot program on the Pocket Locker channel or my One Black Friends channel, the Hot Program channel at 3:30.
We'll be tuning into that.
And then, man, I'm getting up earlier next week. Do you want to do Saturday or Sunday or not sure?
Saturday.
Saturday. We're going back to Saturday. Let's go back to Saturday. All right. And then also at some point, we're going to look at your YouTube page so that we can get these lives to pop up. Because I still think your page is probably set up so that people mostly see your videos. And so then I'm not sure if, as many people are seeing your lives as could be or whatever. And you just got to kind of you just configure your YouTube page to make sure it's showing it. But it's
I can use I'll take any tutorial I could possibly get.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks so much for doing this, Uncle Bobby. Really appreciate you.
Anytime. This is fun.
Yeah, super fun. Great doing this, and we'll see you next time. All right, gang. Love you guys so much. Gang. Thanks so much. Signing off. We'll see you later. Peace.
Gamer boy.
Zach. Oh. Just gotta focus on yourself out here, y'all. Pay too much to the competition. Don't worry about what other people doing. Gotta trust your process. Worry about yourself, like I'm saying, man. It's bigger than me, bigger than you. You know what I mean? If you know what you gotta do, then do it. You're always making excuses, we ain't got time for those. You gotta get it, man. You know what I'm saying? Don't let nobody hold you back. Don't about that negativity, suggestions. Fuck all that shit, my nigga. Yeah.
No competition. I'm feeling so fabulous. And you niggas mad as shit. But it do not matter, kid. So what's the comparison? You niggas ain't zagging yet. Tell your homies stop gassing you. Before we pull up and embarrass you. No competition. I'm feeling so fabulous. And you niggas mad as shit. But it do not matter, kid. So what's the comparison? You niggas ain't zagging yet. Tell your homies stop gassing you. Before we pull up and embarrass you. Yeah. Still watching for clones, but they all over the globe. Probably why I say whoa. Young nigga never made money from stoves, but went hard with the zones. Me and Henny broke it down way before. Now we killing shows, just act like you know. Whoa. Got a new bitch from the bottom. Still never change out my niggas from potters. Honest, I've been feeling golly. You get in my way, then you leave me no ops. Niggas thinking this a race, till we put them in their place. Leave they family with a ghost, then we pull off in a race. Competition. I'm feeling so fabulous, and you niggas mad as shit. But it do not matter, kid. So what's the comparison? You niggas ain't zagging yet. Tell your homies stop gassing you.